From LinkedIn News, I'm Leah Smart, host of Everyday Better, an award-winning podcast dedicated to personal development. Join me every week for captivating stories and research to find more fulfillment in your work and personal life. Listen to Everyday Better on the LinkedIn Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The HP AI PC breaks language barriers instantly by translating up to 44 languages in real time, powered by the Intel Core Ultra processor. With the right tools, work doesn't have to feel like work. Learn more at hp.com/AI PC.
Hey, I'm Kwame Christian, and you are about to step into the world of Negotiate Anything, the #1 negotiation podcast in the world where we teach you how to make difficult conversations easier while getting more of what you want in the process. Each episode is packed with practical tips and strategies from the experts. We delve into negotiation, conflict resolution, and leadership skills that are crucial in both business and in life. Whether you're closing a deal, managing a team, or navigating personal relationships, Negotiate Anything provides you with the tools you need to succeed. Our conversations are real, relatable, and most importantly, rooted in practicality. So if you're ready to transform your conversations and elevate your negotiation skills, join me on Negotiate Anything. Subscribe and listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you love to listen. Let's make every conversation a winning negotiation. When we say internal curiosity, what do we mean by that?
So when I talk about curiosity, and specifically internal curiosity, I'm talking about us being an inquiry around how we think, how we feel, and how we behave. And so when I, for example, am becoming internally curious, it's about, what am I thinking at any given moment? What are the thought patterns that I use that work, and what are the ones that I use that don't? When I'm getting curious about my internal feelings, I'm wondering, what am I feeling right now? So often, for example, we have standard ways of answering that. Fine and okay, by the way, are not emotions, but how are you feeling? I'm okay. I have no idea what that means. Okay could mean I'm angry and furious, or it could mean I'm sad, or it could mean I'm feeling shame. So what internal curiosity for me and around emotions is really being able to accurately identify and get curious about what emotion it is that we're feeling, or emotions, because we could also, of course, have more than one. And then around how I'm behaving, right? So when I'm curious about the behaviors that I'm engaging in, I'm wondering, are they in alignment with my values? Is this the way that I want to behave? Is my choice right now being informed by something that happened in my past, or something that's going on for me in the present? So for me, it's really about being an inquiry. And I believe that when we are in inquiry with ourselves, we are investing in ourselves. We are creating a vehicle that allows for a greater return on investment, because when we get curious, we actually make better choices, and we are more productive, and we allow ourselves greater creativity. So I believe that internal curiosity really fuels a better way of living, in so many words.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things I like to do is play devil's advocate here. So I'll play the role of the skeptic.
So I love that. You're like my oldest child.
Exactly. So what about those people out there who say, well, all of this psychological woo-woo is a waste of time. You know what the right thing to do is, just do the thing and then get it done.
I love that you've said that, because first, I've gotten that question, not only from you, but from clients, who say, well, why does it matter? Why does it matter if what I'm thinking right now is grounded in something that happened when I was 5, 15, or 25? I'm 45 years old right now. The choice in front of me is A or B or C. What do I need right now in order to make that? And I guess my response would be, listen, we're complex human beings, and we are complicated, and it's not always easy, and people don't always know. And in fact, there's so much that goes on at a psychological level that we are not conscious of, that if we can pause for a minute and get curious, maybe we can become a little bit more conscious of, which can actually allow us to make maybe just an incrementally better choice than what we might have made if we weren't as curious or conscious. So for me, I guess I always like to think of, do I want to be like 2 times tougher, or do I want to be 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 times tougher, right? And I am always looking to elevate and level up. And so I want to go more beyond, well, what's just adequate right now, or what's good enough? I want to excel and really make the very best choices for myself that I can in any given moment. And for me, having that self-awareness and self-understanding and introspection aids me in order to do that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And it reminds me, I just bought a new car, and it requires a different gasoline. So it's premium, but I'm just, over the course of my entire life, I've been putting in, the regular gas. And so I accidentally started putting in regular gas in the car. So half of the tank was full of regular. And then I said, oh no, I need to put in the right gasoline. And right. Lara, I could tell. I could tell very clearly that there was something not right here, right?
That's amazing. That's a great metaphor.
Exactly, because what's inside will have an impact on what's outside.
That's right.
So somebody might look at the car and just say, hey, it's a nice car, just drive it further, drive it faster. And I say, well, there's a problem on the inside here. We have to address it. And that's essentially what we're talking about here. But we won't know about what's going on in the inside if we don't take the time to go through this process of internal curiosity.
That's right. And our internal journey shapes our external experience. And so, to understand how we are operating in our external experience and how we are contributing to our external experience, we have to, from my perspective, get curious about our internal journey and know more about that.
Absolutely. And what's interesting too, let's go back to the person who might be skeptical of all of this.
Yeah, I love the skeptic.
Just do what you need to do. All right, let's say you are able to push through and then do what you need to do. And then you're able to do it actually at a decently high level. But did you enjoy that? How was that experience? Right? Because we can't just focus on the outcome. We have to think about the process and how we felt about it too. Because if you present somebody with the option, hey, you could be successful and miserable, versus, hey, you can be successful and feel good about yourself, the obvious answer is feel good about yourself, right? But a lot of times we're not willing to do the internal work in order to get there.
That's right. And I think, what's really important to me sometimes too is, we're always talking about like, well, what's your next step? What are you going to do next? What's your next best choice going to be? And I like to weave in the idea of how do you want to feel next? Like in your next step, how do you want to feel? Because it's not just about the doing part of that. I mean, we like to believe that we are doing and thinking beings. And we like to kind of think of this feeling being as something that like, yeah, maybe we experience during Christmas time because it's nostalgic, or during our anniversary when we hold up the idea of having a loved one, or maybe if we lose a parent and we experience grief. But like all these other feelings, like, I'll keep them at bay for now until I'm ready to address them. But the truth is that we are walking around feeling beings all the time. And so if we can have a greater understanding of where those feelings are coming from and integrate them with our thoughts and our behaviors, that integration to me means more integrity. It means more thoughtful and meaningful choices that allow us to move forward with our values intact.
Hello, my friends. Before we get back to today's episode, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever wondered how to elevate your team's negotiation game and how you can help the folks on your team have better, difficult conversations? At the American Negotiation Institute, we offer transformative keynotes and workshops tailored to empower professionals with top-tier negotiation and conflict resolution skills. Whether it's a keynote for your next event or hands-on training for your team, we've got you covered. Don't just negotiate, master the art with the American Negotiation Institute. Click the link in the description to find out more. Elevate, negotiate, and succeed.
Introducing the HP AI PC, your powerful AI assistant. Easily search through personal files, gain valuable insights, and make smarter, more informed business decisions. Unlock the future of work today with the HP AI PC, powered by the Intel Core Ultra processor. With the right tools, work doesn't have to feel like work. Learn more at hp.com/AIPC.
And Joe, in your opinion, what are some of the biggest psychological mistakes that people make during negotiation?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you. I think the biggest mistake is thinking that little things don't matter. Oh, if I could, if I could, say hello, McFly, every little thing is important. From the moment you walk in, how you set up the meeting, how you greet the staff, saying hello to the security guards, the receptionists, everything else, being attentive to others in the smallest of ways, being polite, shaking hands, being mindful not to elevate emotions. Something so simple, you and I were talking recently about that we can increase face time with each other if we would just angle each other a little bit, because to look at each other straight on is in effect very antagonizing. And the minute that we can just sort of, even if it's just rotating a little in the chair, we can just soften the mood. Turn yielding, making it an art form that, I'm going to let you speak, and I'm going to let you speak fully and completely. And then hopefully you will yield, and then it'll be my turn. And these little things that, I can tell you all the horror stories of people in negotiation, and somebody's, working their phone, or somebody's picking their ear, and you say, no, I can't believe I'm seeing this. And that's because nobody has told them that everything in the theater of negotiations matters, everything. And, from facial reactions, right? So we often talk about facial reactions, and somebody will throw out a number, and immediately you'll see the wrinkled nose and, the shaking head. And right away, now you've got to deal not just with the possibility of a no, but you're dealing with someone who is demonstrating this, which makes it even more difficult, because now you have to overcome this display and so forth. So it's that, I would say it's that recognition that the small things don't matter. I think most people in negotiations work the facts and but I know in the FBI, we would literally rehearse how we would walk in, who would walk in first, where we would sit, who looks at whom, how are things transacted, who will say what words, all because, in the theater of the interview or the theater of negotiations, it's the small things that really matter. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And I think that's one of the most interesting things about what you bring to the table with your expertise, too, really hammering home that reality. And I think about one of the classic sayings from chess is every move has a purpose. You don't just make moves for the sake of moving the pieces. There's always a reason behind it.
Absolutely. For instance, when do we call recess? When do we ask for a break? When do we stop sitting down? I remembered I was giving a lecture at up north at a really prestigious university, and they were shocked when I said, "Well, why don't we just get up from the chair?" And it's like what? Yeah. Why do we have to remain sitting? Just get up from the chair. Put the chair in front of you. You still got the conference room there, and decide that you want to stand and talk about what you're passionate about. Why are you talking passionately about something sitting down? And it's how we orchestrate that, the use of the hands to explain, to envelop, to demark that we're talking about one thing, and that we have studied it carefully, dynamically, and that we have made a decision of how we're going to proceed. Just those gestures potentiate the message. Can you imagine if I had just said that with my hands on my lap? It would lose its meaning. And yet we know that when you use gestures and you combine it with, for instance, a certain cadence of speech, that people just can't stop but listening to you. And that's a great way to reveal your commitment to what you're saying.
So everybody, now you have a reason to follow our YouTube page so you can see Joe explaining with these gestures, because this is going to, maybe it doesn't sound silly, maybe this is the point, but it was almost hypnotic, right? I was so almost invested in what it is that you were saying. It certainly did have a much greater impact when you started to focus on the way that you were gesticulating.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I found with exceptional speakers was their use of their hands. You know, I look at Colin Powell, who, is really one of the great speakers out there. He's a great thinker, a thought leader, and obviously a great general and secretary of state. And you look at how he used gestures to really powerfully message. And, throughout history, we have seen great examples of that. And I find too many executives know the numbers, but don't know how to communicate that information powerfully. The fact that I can tell you that, look, this is our best offer, right? So now you're up against a wall, and my thumbs are in a gravity-defying position. This is it. There's no more movement here. I am not vacillating. I'm not in any way going to change my mind. That's it. That puts an end to the back and forth. You've reached that point where, say, guys, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This is it. And that message of visual as well as vocal becomes much more powerful, and they have to react to it.
And it makes so much sense, because when you think about everything as communication, we have our voice as communication, right, our demeanor as communication, our tone, our intonation, our body language, what we're wearing, all of those things are communicating a message.
Absolutely. The clothing that we wear, the like you said, the gestures, something so simple as, how I reach for something, right? So the person that's jittery versus the person that reaches for it smoothly. The higher we are, the more competent and confident we are in an organization, the smoother our gestures. The lower we are, the more tentative we are, the more jittery the gesture. So we would literally rehearse. All right, so now we've been at this for 2.5 hours. I'm going to reach for that glass of water, and it's going to be smooth. And I'm going to drink it. Think of how many people have been criticized because they've been seen on the media where they go to grab water and it's shaking. And, I'm not going to name names, but I mean, I've seen Silicon Valley people, I've seen, heads of state doing this, not realizing that behavior is unsettling. And as I said, in the theater of negotiation, everything matters. Everything matters.
When we think about the people in the audience, they're having these difficult conversations with their friends, their colleagues, their family members. Right. They're negotiating high stakes deals. What is one thing that you would suggest that they do to start becoming exceptional at their craft?
There's thousands of things that I could say, but if there's one powerful thing, and it's the simple nonverbal, is just simply sit next to them, tilt your head, cant your head slightly, which communicates, I may have an agenda, but I'm being receptive to you. And query. Do a benign query. Tell me about what you're thinking. What drove you to this? What is behind this? Try to understand without imposing what you have to say. One of the things that I learned in dealing with other nation state actors is that they had reason to hate us. They had reason to not cooperate with us. But when I gave them the opportunity to vent or to let me understand their position and not immediately interpose myself, but to give it time, I found that was a powerful elixir. And of all the things that I could talk about, I think this is one where, we talk about active listening. Active listening, that's fine. That's 1980s stuff. I'm talking about benign curiosity. That benign curiosity is infinitely more powerful, and its effects are so dramatically more demonstrable, because benign curiosity is something that we rarely get, and we treasure that.
Wow. I've never heard it described as benign curiosity. I think it's brilliant in its simplicity. And for you, when you think about the term benign curiosity, how are you conceptualizing that?
Well, something so simple as I get into a foreign city and, I get in a cab or whatever, and I may ask the person, what is that on the? Oh, that's really cool. I may ask them. I was born overseas, so to me, nobody in Florida was born. It comes from Florida. Everybody in Florida is from somewhere else. So I'm always asking folks, "Where's your family from?" And I always get a positive response. Oh, really? Lebanese? Oh, I love Lebanese food. Best candy in the world. And they just, and open up. But in negotiations, benign curiosity is a demonstrable attempt on my part to understand their position, to understand this is how we value it. Where most people make the mistake is they immediately begin to challenge. No, I don't want to challenge. That will come. I want them to voice how they got to this place. And in doing so, they may also reveal the weaknesses in their argument. Well, we consulted experts and we think that this is where it's the value point, where there's a lot to unpack there. It's like, well, I mean, that's fantastic. So you've been looking at this for years, right? And you've been doing, and the more interested you are in their process, what you're building in psychology, we call this transference and countertransference. We're at a deeper level. We're establishing a connection because I'm not challenging anything they say. I just want to understand as best I can where they're coming from. Now, obviously, some people are going to be stoic and they're not going to reveal very much. And sometimes, some negotiations, they're transactional, and it's like, okay, the car dealer, he's going to hit me up for $1,200 because that's what this model car, on average, they're going to hit you up for. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to try and negotiate. But I want to try to explore as much as I can about them. I want to explore the words that they use. You said that you were troubled by this. What did you mean by troubled by it? Is it like an external? Is it internal? Is it is it something else? So I use that information to dig deeper, and the more they talk, the greater the connection that there is, as long as, and this is critical, you remain neutral and it's benign curiosity. And that's different than active listening. Benign curiosity is taxing. I had well, you'll appreciate this because I know you read a lot of my stuff. I had a spy case one time where I had been interviewing this guy for hours. And when we got up at the break, my partner looks at my back and she says, "Did you spill a drink?" And I go, "Why?" She says, "You have sweat from your belt line all the way to your shoulders." And I said, "That's sweat." that I earned my money that day. But that's where benign curiosity came in, because the worst thing I could have done was challenge a suspect. But by being benignly curious, I got him to talk in ever more details and never interrupted him once. I would just, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by that?" And I think it's a very effective tool to use.
This is great. Do you want to get more of your favorite expert insights in a fraction of the time? Join Negotiate Anything Premium today. It's designed for busy listeners just like yourself, and Premium is everything that you love about our traditional feed, just packaged to save you time and make it easier for you to apply our expert insights in your difficult conversations. There's no time to wait. Join our Premium community now and get started on your journey towards earning more and negotiating for the life that you deserve. Make sure to start your 7-day free trial today.
We can acknowledge without agreeing. That's the first thing. And also remember, empathy isn't a concession. A lot of times when it comes to these difficult conversations, let's say you're somebody who is really upset about what's happening, things need to change, everybody needs to be in on the change, and then they're talking to somebody who disagrees. They might feel it's a concession to empathize. I'm not going to listen to them or appreciate what it is that they say. Absolutely not. They need to change, not me, right? That's the approach. And the thing is, it's not that empathy is a concession. It's a necessary part of the equation. Imagine if you're a soldier and they say, "Okay, we're going to invade this territory." All right, good deal. So what does the territory look like? Hey, no. We do not care what the territory looks like. We're going to go in, we're going to do our thing regardless of what the territory looks like. Wait, sir, don't you think it's important to know what the territory looks like in order for us to competently move forward in this engagement? No, screw the territory. We're going to do it our way. Yeah. How are you going to persuade somebody if you don't understand where they're coming from? Yeah. You don't need to agree. You just need to recognize what the barriers are. And once you appreciate and acknowledge what those barriers are, then you can structure your argument or your conversation to address those specific barriers. So what would this look like? So we can say, yeah, it doesn't seem like you think this is such a big deal. No, I think they're blowing this way out of proportion. I think there are bigger issues, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, it sounds like you think that this is doing more harm than good. Is that a fair assessment? Yeah, it's doing more harm than good. Look at all the riots. Look at all these things. It sounds like you think that kind of restoring order should be one of the priorities. Absolutely. Okay, great. All right. So now they're starting to calm down. It's not that I agree with them. I can acknowledge and listen and see, that makes sense. I think order is something that's really important. So what do you think is causing all of this? Now we're transitioning into getting curious with compassion. Well, everybody got mad because of that George Floyd situation. So what, in your opinion, what happened there? Well, a cop made a mistake. He shouldn't have done what he did, but I don't think that's a big issue in this situation. Okay. fair enough. And so what do you think in the minds of the people who are protesting, what do you think this means on a bigger scale? Not just in this particular situation, but on a bigger scale. Okay, well, it sounds like there seems to be a bit of a pattern. I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything in my experience that suggests there's a pattern, but it sounds like they're complaining about some kind of pattern of injustice or something like that. Okay. Could it possibly be that because of your perspective and your lived experience that you just haven't had the opportunity to see that? Well, I guess it could be. Well, yeah. All right. See, now we're slowly inching our way toward it. Because the thing is, we're letting them convince themselves. I barely said anything. I just asked some questions and listened and then saw where they were coming from. Okay, this is what you're seeing. Now I get what you're missing. Now I can have the conversation and pull you in that direction.
Congratulations, you've just joined an elite club. By listening to a full episode, you're now officially on the Negotiate Anything team. So welcome aboard. What most team members do is they subscribe to the podcast because that allows them to automatically get the latest episodes of the show. The best things in life lie on the other side of difficult conversations. Keep learning, keep practicing, and keep getting better. Your relationships will improve, your career will soar, and you'll have the confidence you need to get the most out of these crucial conversations. Again, thank you for joining the team. We're excited to have you, and I will see you in the next episode. I'll catch you later.